Hello, everyone. Hi, welcome. My name is Stacy Nell. I'm the Executive Director of the Kansas African American Affairs Commission. And today, for our Lunch and Learn that's happening, actually, this is pre-recorded, so whenever this airs, I don't even know what today is. But I'm thrilled to be joined by Judge Candice Alcaraz, who has been elected newly as the first African American judge in Wyandotte, African American female judge in Wyandotte County. Good. I want to make sure I get all my right. Hello, how are you today?
I'm doing pretty good. It's a regular Thursday here at the courthouse. Not supposed to have court till about 2:00, so I'm doing good.
Okay, so it's funny. It wasn't on my list of things to ask, but when you talked about how your day was going, it was kind of a slow day. I'm like, I wonder, what does the average day even look like?
Oh, it's a mix. So I do both criminal and civil, and we have like set dockets for different days. So my Mondays and Wednesdays are primarily civil cases. I do landlord-tenant evictions, and I do like credit card debt or anything credit debtor. That all falls on Mondays and Wednesdays. Tuesdays and Fridays are my criminal days, so I kind of split between the two. And then Thursday, because I'm a basement judge, I do the preliminary hearing docket. So that's at 9, 10:30, and 2 every Thursday, like clockwork.
A basement judge. This is not a phrase I've heard before. Is this like some sort of internal basement judge?
So it just means that I'm a newer judge. So the new judges tend to start in the basement. And then from there, you work your way up as new people come in. So we just reshuffle from the bottom. So
wow.
Eventually, I will say maybe in about 8 to 10 years, well, probably sooner than that, I'll be upstairs with a full trial docket. And I'll no longer be a basement judge.
You have to sort of pay your dues a little bit.
Oh, definitely.
Although, and that comes up, okay, first of all, I need to back up and read your bio. All because right. Now we're getting into questions. That phrase, I'm going to put a pin in that phrase, pay your dues, because I think it sort of lends into how you got to where you are even now. Okay, so Candice Alcaraz is Wyandotte County's first Black female district court judge. She was elected in August of 2022. Alcaraz was born and raised in Chicago, Illinois, but in 2013, she graduated from Truman State University in Kirksville, Missouri, as a magna cum laude with her BS in criminal justice. She then moved to Kansas to attend Washburn University School of Law. In 2016, she earned her Juris Doctorate and passed the bar exam on her first attempt. Bravo. Okay, because I've heard that's an impressive feat right there. After law school, Ms. Alcaraz began working as a prosecutor in the Wyandotte County District Attorney's Office. For the past 6 years, she has handled all levels of cases, including homicide, narcotics, sex crimes, battery, and the like. Locally, she's a member of the Kansas City, Kansas alumni chapter of the Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. I will not hold that against you. And the Kansas Women Attorney Association, Wyandotte County Bar Association, Kiwanis Club, and the Big Brothers Big Sisters of Greater Kansas City. For her work in the legal field and the community, Judge Alcaraz has received the Women of Wyandotte Award in 2021 and the Friends of Yates Portrait of a Black Woman Award in 2023. So thank you so much for taking time out of your day to come talk to me today.
Oh, yeah, it's no problem at all. No problem whatsoever.
So I wanted to, the first question I ask all my guests is, what are you having for lunch, or what did you have for lunch?
So I had a Cobb salad from this cafe that's like a block over from the job. It's called Connect Cafe. It's absolutely delicious. And I probably eat there maybe 2 or 3 times a week. It's the bomb. It's absolutely
Connect Cafe?
Yes.
In downtown KCK?
It's really good. Mm-hmm.
I'll have to go check it out.
Oh, yes. It's absolutely delicious. And everything is good. The sandwiches, the salads. You can't go wrong. Can't go wrong.
Okay, little commercial for Connect.
Yeah.
How you spell Connect?
Just the regular way, standard spelling.
Connect. Yep. Okay, because that's something I thought, like, is it like with a K-I-N?
Oh, no.
I just didn't know. Sometimes people get clever with how they spell things.
Like, no, it's straightforward, just like that. It's a wonderful little shop, and I love going there. It's great.
A nice cafe. Keep that in mind. Okay, so now you are a judge.
Yes.
Which is different than being just a lowly little lawyer, which is different.
It's totally different.
So let's back up. I often ask questions about the 9-year-old version of yourself. The 9-year-old version of yourself, did she think, did little Candice when she was 9, did she think, I'm gonna be a judge one day?
Not in the slightest. Little Candice wanted to be a pediatrician, and that did not change until my freshman year of college. I was struggling with my science courses. I was pre-med as a freshman, doing entirely too much. And my science classes, it just didn't work out. I ended up dropping science altogether and going in a whole other direction.
But see, so little Candice, though, she must have been pretty ambitious, because it's not like 9-year-old Stacy wanted to be a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader. So if 9-year-old Candice wanted to be a pediatrician, 9-year-old Stacy would have just looked at her and thought, girlfriend. So you must have always been, to a certain extent, a little.
Oh yes, I've always been very driven, and no one's harder on me than me. So my mother says all the time, jokingly in a way, she's like, I really didn't have to do much because you were just so focused. Like she said, as a kid, I would put myself on punishment if I didn't do good in school. Like I would just walk my TV and my game systems over to my parents' room, and I'll be like, I'll come back and get this when I'm doing better.
Wow.
And that was just my nature. Like I always just wanted to be not necessarily better than everyone else. I just wanted to be the best for me.
Yeah.
Like if this is the goal, I want to get past that for myself. So
right.
I've always been that way.
Okay. So the drive was always there. You thought the drive was going to go towards pediatrics. Yep. Science in college kind of got the best of you, but that obviously it didn't kill the drive. So how did you make the switch from medicine to law?
So it was very random. My teacher, she was one of like the heads of the criminal justice major, and she pulled me aside at the end of my junior year. Mind you, I had no idea what I was going to do. I was getting ready to graduate next year. I was just like, I was kind of in between criminal justice and English. And she said, you need to really think about law school. And I said, no, I think I'm gonna try to go to the FBI or something. And she said, no, you need to think about law school. You're very smart. You can articulate yourself well. You write very well. You should think about it. And I said, well, you're asking for a lot, because, I'm the first person in my immediate family to go to college. And there is no one in my family that has ever gone to law school. So I don't even know what that looks like. I'm not trying to do all of that. And sure enough, I think she may have tipped off someone else, because then I got a call, or an email, I should say, inviting me to go to the Souchier Women's Institute at SLU in St. Louis. Mm-hmm. And I saw and met with so many female lawyers, judges, teachers, and I just said, okay, this can be done, Mm-hmm. And then after that, I did an internship with two judges. Well, one judge who had a person next door to them that I could look up to as well. But I interned for a Black judge back in Chicago over the summer. And I just said, okay, this is like not only something I can do, but this is something that we can do.
Right.
All right. I'm going for it. So I took the LSAT with my sorority sister at the time, and she fell asleep and got a higher score than I did. So that was my first look into the future. I was like, well, this isn't looking good, but I applied. I got into a couple of schools and I settled on Washburn, and then the rest was history. It just literally just like that over the course of a summer, my entire life changed, plans went this direction.
But that's, I love that story. And, I didn't know that story when I first met you. It was like, oh, I want you to come on this show. But it really does feed into with so many people that I've had on the show, especially the African Americans. I know I don't have the largest audience or the widest reach, but for me, it's inspiring to me, and I'm a grown woman. It's inspiring to me to see us as a community and us as Black people doing things that maybe we don't think we can do for ourselves. And like you said, when you were a junior in college, you were like, but to have someone go, no, you can do it. And you needed to see someone do it to know that you could do it. Yeah. So I love that story. And, we can see who we are. Right. Okay. So you graduate from Washburn, you come to work at the district attorney's office. And this ties into what we talked about right before about paying your dues. So at what point as a lawyer did you decide to make the leap? Because judgeships in Wyandotte County are not appointed.
No.
They're elected.
Yep.
So at what point did you make the decision to say, okay, this is something that I want to pursue? Because it's not like you just have to, appointed positions, you might play the game and know who you need to be friends with in order to get the job, right? Like appointed positions might be, who do you know versus how hard you work. So how did you make this leap?
It was kind of a twofold thing. So when I first started at the DA's office, they do training. And you walk around, you meet all the judges, you look at all the courtrooms. And in our courthouse, we have all of our judges' pictures on the wall on the 3rd floor. So what I noticed right away was, okay, there's only ever been 4 African-American judges here. And at the time when I started, we still had 2 on the bench. Now we're down to, we're back up to 2 now. But we would eventually go down to just having 1. And they were all men. And I said, okay, this is good. But it'd be great if there was someone like me up there, like someone, again, that I could look up to and say, like, she did it, I can do it. So I kind of just like tucked it away in my mind. I said, okay, we'll come back to that. Like, we'll see if that's what's in the cards for me. Slowly but surely, people started asking me about it and, you should really think about it. And I was like, is there something like written on my forehead that says this? Like, because I'm like, these are people that I don't know.
Ask me about the judgeship.
Yes. And I'm like, I don't even know you that well, but everybody started kind of, you need to be tracking this. You need to look into this. And I said, okay. So in my mind, I decided maybe I'll do it about 9 or 10 years from now. Never did I imagine I would do it so soon. But my fiance said, listen, and this is us early dating before we were ever engaged. He said, yeah, you're going to do this now. There's an opportunity. And I think you'd be the perfect person to carry it out. I have no doubt that you're going to go out here, you're going to work hard, you're going to knock doors, you're going to do everything that you need to do. You have the background and you just need to go for it. Because that was an important thing too. Like when we talk about paying our dues, I told him I would not, if I don't feel comfortable, if I don't feel like I have enough knowledge, I'm not going to go for it because I don't want to be in a position where I'm messing up people's lives because I am inadequate or I don't have enough experience. But by the time we were making this decision, I mean, I was 5 years into my job. I had reached the top of that mountain that you reach as a prosecutor. So I've done murders, rapes, robberies, all of that. I've done it. So I have the knowledge that I felt like I needed. And yeah, I saw an opportunity one day. I came from court dealing with the judge I would end up running against. And I just said, I don't like how I feel today, and I can do something about it. So I looked into what was required, and away we went.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna put that on a t-shirt. I don't like how I feel today, so I'm gonna do something about it.
Yeah.
That is awesome. That is awesome. So now I myself I've had that experience because I ran for state senate in 2020. Mm-hmm. So I understand what it takes to be a candidate. But again, this idea of paying your dues, was there pushback when you decided to run against this?
Oh, definitely. So I was told very early on, before I ever even went down to Topeka to put in my paperwork, you do not do this. That is not how we run things here. You wait your turn. We'll tell you when it's your turn. So do not do this. You're going to ruffle feathers. We kind of have a gentleman's agreement here that you don't run against a seated judge. And I thought that's funny because there have been people that have done that. And so the fact that you all are just very much in my face about it, were you talking to other people who had tried to do this in the past just as sternly as you're talking to me? And once they started that, I was like, oh yeah, I am all in. I do not like being told no, that I can't do something. And I've never been a person to wait for anyone to give me anything. If I want it, I'm going to go take it. And that's it. So yes, there was pushback. I didn't care. I knew what I wanted. I knew what I was going for. And all I had, once I declared that I was doing this and broadcast it out to the world, like pressing that button on my Facebook to declare to everybody that I'm on the ballot, was the scariest moment in my life besides election night.
Yeah.
And I just hid under my desk for 15 minutes. I had to turn my phone off because it wouldn't stop buzzing. And I just said, we're doing this. Let's go. We're walking this line and we're going to walk it all the way to the end. So there was pushback, but it didn't ruffle me at all.
I love it. That's why I'm like, I expect next year's for you not to be a basement judge. I'll be like, I'll come visit you. You'll be like in the penthouse.
We shall see.
Okay. So how was the campaign? How did you find the campaign?
I found it to be well, I don't know. My mother used to be involved with campaigning because she did a lot of stuff with the school board back home in Chicago. So I was aware of like campaigns and kind of sort of how they work. I knew we would get up on the weekends and in the evenings and walk and knock doors for my mom and put her pamphlets out. But I didn't really know the inner makings of a campaign. So I was able to get a young lady who had worked on someone's campaign in my county already. She had just finished up a successful campaign for a commissioner. And I had to talk to her a little bit to get her on board because I know she was tired. And she was like, you know what, fine. I like your energy. Let's do it. And we set up an entire, game plan 6 months before I ever walked into the office in Topeka. So we were ready to go. Once that time came, they were like, all right, you went down there, you paid your money. We're doing the Facebook post today. We got the bank account open. You have a treasurer. You have all these things coming up, your designs for your posters and for your mailing pieces. If you're going to send mailing pieces at all, how many, where to send them, who to send them to. So all of those things, like we were tracking throughout the entire process. And it was a little nerve-wracking for me because I don't like necessarily to be just up front. I like to be hidden away doing my job. Like I enjoyed being a prosecutor who was doing these great things that nobody knew it was me. So it was fun for me to like listen to people talk about what was happening on certain cases. And they're like, yeah, that was really good. And I'm thinking, okay, good. I did a good job. better for me not to know, or better for them not to know that they're talking to me about my case.
Right.
So, but now it's like I was the focus. And within the first 2 weeks of door knocking, though, I got over my nerves because people were really interested in what I had to say. And they were very happy to see me out and about. I mean, even people who were definitely strong for my opponent, they were just glad that I was out here talking to people. And they were like, I have to vote for him because he's my friend, or we have this certain relationship or this certain dealing. But I appreciate you, actually getting out here to do the work. So I enjoyed it. It brought out things in me that I didn't necessarily know were there, lying deep. But it was a good process. It was a very good process. I kind of miss walking those streets though. So we'll see when I'm up for re-election. If I have somebody running against me, I will be so excited to get back to walking again. It just became an everyday thing. It was an everyday thing.
That became the job. The campaign became the job.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so you get elected, and I know I've read a little bit about even what your platform was when you ran. Mm-hmm. So now that you are a judge, how do you approach? I know I want this phrase of restorative justice. So how do you approach your job?
Well, I have to deal with my civil and my criminal stuff kind of in different ways. Okay. So on the criminal side, I try to be as just matter of fact, common sense about situations as I possibly can be. So if you have to go and do some time, you have to go and do some time. If you don't, and we can find a workaround, great. I'm willing to do that. I talk a lot to the defendants, probably more than other judges have.
I was going to ask is your approach different?
Yeah. So I talk to them. What were you doing before this happened in your life? What are you going to do when you get out of here? What are your next steps? Do you live here? Are you going to move somewhere else? Because I'm trying to gain the knowledge you up to be successful. So I try to take all of those things into account. I listen to the state, I listen to the defense. And that's the thing too, that now I'm not a prosecutor. So now I am weighing things differently than I did in that office. So I just try to weigh, what is it that's going on in your life and how do we get you back to a good place in society? How can we pair those two things together? Because there's this crime in the middle, but we have to find a way because both things are going to overlap eventually. You have to come back. You also have to give something back to the community that you've harmed. So that's the way I look at it. And then on the civil side, it's more or less, I really give people a voice. I've been told that I'm a lot more patient than other people have been in this position that I'm in, because I want people to feel like, yes, when you come here, you are heard, that you can say what you need to say. If I have to cut you off, I do it respectfully. I don't just tell you to shut up or sit down, or no, I'll let you talk. And sometimes the attorneys are looking at me like, she could just shut this down right now. But no, you've come to court. Most people come in here, they have no idea what's going on. They have no experience with the system. So I try to help them. I try to guide them. I tell them, especially now, I noticed like there was an issue with people who are representing themselves. They don't know where to get the information they need. They don't know how to fill things out. So I tell them every week, every single docket, if you need help, there's a help desk on the 3rd floor. If you need to find documents for your case, they're downstairs in the clerk's office. If you need to find motions and forms, they're on the court website. Because when you come into my courtroom, under the law, I have to treat you just like I would an attorney in here, at least on the civil side. That's what I do. So I just try to give them as much advice as I can within the law and what is allowed, because I can't give them legal advice, but I can tell you,
point them in the direction.
These are the resources you need. And so if you don't use these resources, the situation is what it is. But for the most part, people take heed to what I say and they go and get the help that they need. So for me, it's more or less, I try to talk to people, understand what's going on. I give them their time to speak, and I let them know I see you and I hear you. And I think,
would you say that this
go ahead.
Restorative justice approach is different than, I'm thinking of just a more strict punitive law and order type of
approach? Because there's certainly the simple way of doing this job. I could simply say, anybody that comes up on my criminal side, I mean, I always have the option. I can send you to jail.
Yeah,
I can. But what does that solve? How does that help this situation? What are our other options? And so for now, I only sentence misdemeanor cases. So I'm not a trial judge upstairs yet, where I'll be dealing with felony cases where we're talking about years and years of someone's life. So down here, I think is good practice for what's coming up there, because when people come in front of me, they come prepared now. It used to be when I was a prosecutor, if it was a misdemeanor plea and sentencing, it was more or less, we're just following along with the roles. Nothing else is really out of the ordinary happening. As opposed to now, people are like, no, well, I got my client in evaluation. The state is like, there's some housing for this person over here. So I think it's having an effect.
See, that's good. So you're saying like you're sort of making a name of yourself as that someone, like, if there's a way to avoid just, I'm just gonna send them to jail, but to actually help.
Yes, if there's a way to do that, that's what I'm looking into. And I want all of the information. Tell me what I'm not going to see on this piece of paper that will help me make a better decision for your life and how you go forward. Because I don't know what I don't know. So I just look at these papers and just see, okay, you committed this crime and this is the amount of time that's available for me to send or do something to you. I need more information than that before making that decision. And that's what I do on a daily basis.
That's good to know. Knock wood, thus far in my life, I have not had a need to be involved in the criminal or the criminal court system. But I mean, I would like to think that I think that's taking into account that if I find myself in front of a judge, there probably was something that got me there. Like I didn't just wake up in the morning and decide to turn evil.
Exactly. Like
and I may not have been evil when whatever the thing happened, but So to have a judge who comes at this, and this may be an unfair question, and I don't mean to cast shade on any of your coworkers. Is that partly because you're a woman or a Black woman that women may approach things more differently? Not to say, because I know some white men who are pretty compassionate.
Yeah.
So, but like, do you think that might have something?
I think it's unique to every judge how they interact with people in general.
That's fair.
And you can see before they ever get on the bench. Like that's why for the appointment process, it's much more important the way you treat people and interact with people that you have to work with, your colleagues, because when they're looking through a lens for that process, they're looking into, okay, well, how do you react to attorneys that oppose you? How do you act in the courtroom? Whereas on the elected side, the people in the community, unless they are up here for court or doing anything in front of you, they won't know how you are. They don't know how you act, how you interact. So you may be able to mask some things there, but on an appointment look, you can't mask that because they're going to talk to the judges you appear in front of. They're going to talk to your colleagues. So there has to be, some checks and balances there about how you're acting with people. So I would say every judge, it's completely unique to them, what's their way of communicating effectively that works for them in their particular courtroom. The way I do it may not be the best way for a different judge to do it because they may not match their personality. Right. And they may have a different approach to it. So I would say it's purely unique to every single judge's, their way of being, whatever is what makes it comfortable for them on the bench and what allows for them to relate to people and interact with them in a certain way. It just is by courtroom. It's completely different because everyone has their own way of dealing with people in general.
Well, that's fair. But I do like the restorative justice approach. So I thank you for taking that approach. Believe it or not, we're down to like 3 minutes left. And so I always try to leave, I know that a half an hour goes really quickly. I always try to leave time at the end to talk about the importance of voting, specifically also in our community, in the African American community. Turnout rates are very low. Just making sure that we're registered, and maybe even from the standpoint of having been a candidate, the importance of people to be voting. Like, for example, if people did not vote for you, you would not be on the bench, right? If our community doesn't turn out to vote, then different people get elected. So I always want to take time to, and I hope, I might be walking a line, but I'm like, okay, well, she's already elected, so she's not a candidate. So if I talk to her about the campaign, it's not like I'm pushing a candidate because you're not running right now.
No, I'm not. I can always talk about my candidacy, but definitely voting wise, that was something I had to look into as a candidate. And the very unique thing about Wyandotte County is that we are pretty much split 3 ways, white, Black, and Hispanic. And so I had to take that into account. I'm like, okay, I am a Black woman, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're just going to vote for me because I'm Black. I have Hispanic heritage, but that doesn't mean that they're just going to vote for me because I have that in my bloodline. Like, you have to get out here and actually earn it. And especially in this day and age where people, they can be very bold and they can tell you, well, I'm not voting for you just because you're Black. I understand that. And that was never like the main part of my platform. I always wanted people to focus on, okay, what am I trying to do in the courtroom? Yes, this will be historical, but let's set that aside. What am I bringing to the table? Because if I am not a good candidate outside of just my race, what's the point?
Yeah.
But even with the voting, though, I knew, okay, if I swing a certain amount of votes in each area around town and in the jurisdiction, I can pull this off. And I did. I got, I think, only 4 precincts. I did not overwhelmingly win the majority of the votes there. But that's what we were tracking the entire time. Right. Where am I going to be the most productive? But yes, if people don't vote, this never happens. I'm never here. Someone else is here that you don't know, have any idea who they are. And even more to the point of how I got here and challenging the powers that be in the county. Like, people don't really do that. So I hope that people will take into account, yes, be fearless, be bold, run for something, get people to know your name, and also encourage people to vote. I didn't care who you were going to vote for, but vote nonetheless, because we do have lower numbers that turn out here. Yeah. And honestly, when people really started to vote, that's how you've seen the change that we've gone through, at least in our county, over the past couple of years. I mean, even from my old boss, with him becoming the first Black DA in the entire state, that doesn't happen magically. People have to vote. And then we have our first Black mayor, and then now you have me. So, it doesn't just happen out of nowhere. People have to vote. You have to go out to vote.
Yay! Well, you did my pitch for me. Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
No, I'm good. I'm like, people are probably tired of listening to me saying the exact same thing at the end of every lunch and learn, but that's essentially it. And I even talk about like that candidates know down to the precinct.
Yeah.
Where am I going to spend my time? So yeah, and
exactly.
I say that politicians pay attention to the people who pay attention to them. So we as a community, please make sure that we're continuing to vote. And there is an election this year. Also, that's the other thing that a lot of people don't know. Well, some people don't pay attention to. They're like, oh, I vote in the presidential elections. There's an election every year.
The elections on the smaller level, and I had to explain this to people as well on the campaign trail. I'm like, if I need to be stopped, I need to be stopped now. Because if I get this position, it's going to give me access to go higher and to go into doing different things that never would be if I don't make it in on this level. The local level is where it starts, because that's how people build their careers. They get in and then they just capitalize on that. Well, the people voted me for this, they voted me for that. And that's how it goes. And then you end up looking up one day and you're like, how did this crazy person get here? Because they came in on a local level.
Because you elected them. Yeah.
Up there. That's how it happens.
Yeah. Like I tell people all the time, I'm like, I don't believe there was widespread voter fraud. We've got people that we have because people voted for them. These people won the election.
Yes.
So it's like,
that's the thing.
If you don't like politicians, then you need to vote for different people.
Yes.
So yeah, that's pretty, girlfriend, I tell you.
I lived it and breathed it. I'm just like, I don't think you all understand, especially for a position like this that I'm in. This launches people's political careers.
Yeah.
If you want to go further into the law, this is how it starts. If you don't get appointed for something, you get elected, and then this springboards you into other positions. So like I said, if somebody needs to be stopped, it's early on the local level. Because if you don't stop them there, they're going to get higher on up that ladder.
Well, all the local elections are happening. You got your school boards, you got your city councils, you got your little, I think they're called commissioners in Wyandotte County. So there's lots of elections. So I will continue to talk about voting as we get closer to the primary and then the general. All right. Well, thank you. Judge Alcaraz, thank you so much for just
so welcome.
Spending some time talking to me. I'm thrilled. I'm so glad we ran into each other. We ran into each other at the KU Men's Center's Juneteenth Jazz Festival that evening. And so I was grateful to see you there. And thank you so much for taking the time. This has been a pleasure and a joy.
No, thank you so much for having me.
All right. And I will see everybody. And like I said, we're recording this on a Thursday. I'm not even sure which day this is going to go up, but I will. It'll be up, and I'll let you know about it, and it'll live forever on YouTube. but thanks everybody, and I will see you on Monday.
All right.